Welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving into a truly fascinating text from the foundational Buddhist treatise, the Mahaprajnaparamita Upadesha, written by the legendary philosopher Nagarjuna. Today, we're going to decode this ancient wisdom into plain, everyday English. We'll be exploring the three doors of liberation. That's emptiness, signlessness, and wishlessness. And we'll see exactly how they act as highly practical gateways to profound, ultimate peace.
But before we get into the heavy philosophy, let's just ground this in our actual reality. Why do we constantly feel so trapped by the anxieties, the stress, and honestly, the sheer exhaustion of our daily lives? I mean, think about it. We run relentlessly from one desire to the next. We overthink literally every interaction. And we cling so hard to identities that are constantly shifting. It kind of feels like we're wandering in a desert of our own making, right? Well, this ancient text validates that exact everyday struggle. But more importantly, it offers us a way out.
And that way out is actually super misunderstood. When a lot of people hear the word nirvana, they immediately picture this sort of depressing, mystical void of absolute nothingness, just blankness. But Nagarjuna flips this entirely. He describes nirvana not as a void, but as the ultimate city of peace. Think of it as a majestic, completely unshakable fortress against worldly suffering. It's this absolute sanctuary where the chaos of the outside world simply cannot touch you. But to get inside this city, you have to actually pass through its gates.
So, here is our map to the city for today. We'll start with seeking the city, then explore the first door of emptiness, the second door of silencelessness, and the third door of wishlessness. After that, we'll look at choosing your door, and finally, the ultimate peace.
All right, let's jump right into Section 1, Seeking the City of Nirvana.
The source text explains that after walking a very long path of ethical practices, you eventually arrive right at the towering walls of Nirvana City. To actually enter, the text introduces us to the three doors of liberation. We have Step 1, emptiness, Step 2, signlessness, and Step 3, wishlessness. Now, do me a favor and drop any preconceived notions you might have about these words, because these aren't just dry academic theories. They are profound, sequential shifts in perspective. They are literally new lenses you put on to see reality exactly as it is.
Which brings us to Section 2, the first door, emptiness.
So passing through this first door requires us to strip away our absolute grandest illusion, the illusion of a fixed, independent self. Nagarjuna uses a really vivid, almost mechanical analogy for this. He says our bodies are just bones linked, covered by skin and flesh, its mechanisms moving like a wooden puppet. I mean, really think about that for a second. When you strip it all down, what we confidently call I or me is really just a collection of parts working together. Bones, muscles, nerves, thoughts, memories. There is no tiny pilot sitting inside your head pulling the levers. It's a mechanism.
So, the absolutely crucial point here is this definition of emptiness. Emptiness is the realization that all phenomena arise purely from interconnected causes and conditions. It means there is no fixed, independent creator or receiver of actions. You are not some isolated island. You are a dynamic, ever-changing result of endless overlapping interactions. And when you truly grasp this, the heavy, exhausting burden of the ego just begins to evaporate. That is exactly how emptiness acts as a literal door to peace.
Let's move to Section 3, the second door, signlessness.
Okay, but what if you step through that first door and your mind just starts obsessing over the concept of emptiness itself? Well, that brings us to signlessness. See, we normally navigate life by clinging to worldly illusions, obsessing over rigid signs and labels. Male, female, good, bad, same, different. We love putting everything into neat little boxes. But the underlying reality is totally devoid of these fixed, graspable signs. Because everything is empty and interconnected, like we literally just learned, these rigid labels are ultimately completely arbitrary. Signlessness is the incredibly liberating act of just dropping the labels.
To really drive this home, the text offers this striking, poetic analogy. Like a wildfire burning a bamboo forest, sounds arise solely due to the coming together of causes and conditions. You don't label the crackle of a bamboo fire as some permanent, fixed entity, right? You know it's just a temporary event caused by heat, wood, and air coming together. Similarly, what we stubbornly perceive as fixed identities or permanent situations in our own lives are really just temporary interactions. When you stop clinging to the signs, boom, you pass through the second door.
And that unlocks Section 4, the third door, wishlessness.
Now, if you've realized that everything is empty and you've stopped clinging to all those arbitrary signs, this third door just naturally swings wide open for you.
The shift to wishlessness happens when you clearly see that all worldly phenomena are impermanent and ultimately lead to suffering if you cling to them. It means intentionally stopping actions driven by what the text calls the three poisons: greed, anger, and ignorance. Ultimately, wishlessness is ceasing the endless, totally exhausting pursuit of temporary desires. You aren't depressed or giving up. You are just finally at rest. You no longer feel that burning, anxious need to constantly chase after things that are definitely going to fade away anyway.
Let's look at Section 5, choosing your personal door. So we have emptiness, signlessness, and wishlessness. And if you're sitting there thinking, wow, okay, this is overwhelming, how do I actually apply all this? The source text gives us a brilliantly practical piece of advice. It says, like a city with 3 gates, one person cannot enter 3 at once. If you enter, you pass through just one. Guys, this is so comforting. You don't need to simultaneously master all 3 of these incredibly complex philosophies to find peace. Just like a physical city, successfully walking through a single gate guarantees your arrival inside. So the big question then becomes, which gate is yours?
To answer that, the text provides a really neat personality matrix. I've actually translated these ancient classifications into modern archetypes to make it easier for us. So if you are heavy in views, meaning you're the classic overthinker, always debating, always conceptualizing everything, your designated gate is the door of emptiness. Deconstructing your rigid thoughts is what will set you free. If you are heavy in desires, the pleasure seeker, constantly chasing the next high or terrified of the next low, your path is the door of wishlessness, realizing the pure exhaustion of that endless chase. And if you are relatively balanced between the two, your gate is signlessness, dropping those subtle labels that cause attachment. Basically, identify your archetype and you find your highly specific path to nirvana.
Finally, Section 6, the path to ultimate peace.
Okay, so we have the map and we know our personal gate, but there is one final absolutely crucial anchor needed to step through without losing your way. The text explicitly warns against something called wild wisdom. That's when you understand these doors intellectually, but you lack deep meditative focus. Let me tell you, just intellectualizing it won't save you when real tragedy actually strikes your life. True liberation requires true samadhi, and that is wisdom stabilized by unwavering concentration. To actually pass through these gates, you can't just casually think about them. You have to stabilize your mind so the wisdom penetrates your very being. The text leaves us with this truly beautiful metaphor to explain that relationship. Samadhi is like the king, and wisdom is like his ministers. The king never travels alone. Profound wisdom, truly understanding the 3 doors, is absolutely necessary. Those are your ministers. But without the king, the stabilizing, grounding power of deep concentration and focus, or samadhi, the entire kingdom falls apart. Wisdom must be anchored by samadhi to actually conquer suffering and step into the city of peace.
We've covered a ton of ground today, navigating all the way from the chaos of daily suffering right up to the literal gates of nirvana. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. Are you currently trapped by your own endless overthinking, or are you just totally exhausted by chasing temporary desires? Really take a look at your life right now. Which archetype are you? And, more importantly, which door will you choose to walk through today?